yeah, they're removing dye, but that food that the dye was in, it's still unhealthy because it was ultra processed and it'll still kill you. So now they're admitting that the food will is bad for you. So I can't for the life of me figure out why people are not talking about the food reform going on in the United States right now. So what do I mean by food reform? Right now, it's mostly dye related, but some companies have also like switched recipes and trying to do stuff that in theory or in knowing is actually healthier, right? And that's the whole idea of this. So obviously, this is under the guidance of RFK, who was put into place by Trump. The convergence of the Maha and the MAGA movement coming together. I was actually a big supporter of RFK. If he would have continued to run, I probably would have wasted my vote and voted for him, despite disagreeing with him on other things. This was a big deal to me, and I could never fully wrap my brain around why we were just letting companies like poison the population. Obviously, the left, mostly the Democrats, really went hard after RFK, even while he was still running as a Democrat, because they didn't want him upsetting the apple cart of Kamala. And then when he joined Trump, they just continued to hit him hard. And then when he was doing his hearings and stuff, even some of the Republicans were hitting him hard because they're also serving the establishment, serving those big companies that didn't want to do this reform and didn't want to do these changes. So, he's been attacked from all sides. And some things, again, I think he's wrong on some things, but on the food stuff, he's absolutely correct. You know, and this is just a first step. I obviously hope this goes a lot further, and more regulations on making the food healthier. I was talking about already about how the left was smearing him. Even I was looking at articles on this just to see like all the companies that have so far commented on it and whatnot. And CNN posted an article basically trying to downplay it. But their way they downplayed it is the CNN article was like, um, yeah, they're removing dye, but that food that the dye was in, it's still unhealthy because it was ultra processed and it'll still kill you. So now they're admitting that the food will is bad for you. And in that same article, they say that about 70% of the US food supply is ultra processed food, which means that there's only 30% of the food that isn't ultra processed and won't poison you. So if you do some math there, I don't think 30% of the food supply is going to feed 100% of the country. So obviously, we need to make some changes there because right now, to even keep people fed, some of those people are going to have to eat ultra processed food until we can get that number switched around a little bit, right? Like it's crazy. And if you think about it too hard, it almost breaks your brain because it's like, well, they won't just feed us poison, will they? But the answer is yes, they will. They will feed you poison. If you don't know, without getting too much into the details of it, back when they were really going after the tobacco companies actually bought most of the major food companies in the country. They really they made it as addicting as they could, food addicting as addicting as it could, cost cutting as they could, and they turned food into like this big industry. A lot of them sold after that, like sold like the people who own the tobacco companies got out of the out of the food industry, but they already set everything in motion. I don't know if they still own stock in it, still pulling strings from behind the scenes. I don't know about that, but it's just this crazy thing if you look into it. And if you're like a millennial like me, this happened when we were like really small children, or maybe not even. Yeah, I think you would be born either way. But when we were very small children, or maybe not even born, is when this all happened. So like it almost breaks your brain to think our whole life has just been poison food, and that's what we have to work with. And so hopefully that can get changed. And I don't understand again why people aren't talking about this. Let's go through this particular article here really quickly. What is synthetic food dye reform? The FDA is pushing to phase out synthetic food dyes due to health concerns. Major food brands are reformulating products to meet new regulations. We talked about that. Natural dyes pose challenges to stability, cost, and supply chain logistics. The industry faces pressure to innovate while ensuring safety and transparency. The food industry is undergoing a significant transformation as regulatory bodies, consumers, and manufacturers move away from synthetic food dye. Historically used for their vibrant colors and stability, synthetic dyes like red 40, yellow 5, and blue 1 have come under increasing scrutiny due to potential health concerns. So, you know, basically, they're not fully saying it yet, but they're about to say like, hey, they actually found that it does cause certain things. And again, the food dye is just the first step. These are things that are already, if you don't know, they're already banned in most other countries, like Canada and Europe, I believe. Like most other, first world countries, they don't allow these dyes in their foods because they're not healthy. Even if they are not as bad as RFK says they are, to that extreme, they are not healthy, so they don't put them in the food. It's kind of a simple notion there. And, obviously, like I said, we need to go further with that with the ultra processed food, and we need to change that food supply number to get more of that to be not processed so everyone can eat still. So why is there concern over synthetic food dyes? Studies correlate some artificial dyes to hyperactivity and allergic reactions, which have in part prompted public health advocates and lawmakers to push for stricter oversight. In 2025, the FDA began taking steps to phase out synthetic dyes, following California's earlier legislative actions. Big food businesses, including Nestle, General Mills, Conagra, I don't know what that one is, responded by pledging to eliminate these dyes from products by 2027. I know PepsiCo also did as well, and I think they own Frito-Lay's, so like the chips and stuff like that. U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy has shouted loudest about the need to shift away from synthetic food dyes. So committed to the case, and despite experts' concerns, he has passionately defended the FDA's fast-tracked approval of these new natural dyes. So, okay, I'm just gonna say this. This is silly. Like they obviously are trying to make him look bad there. He's fast tracking the natural. He's fast tracking this natural stuff before we know if it's safe. We don't know if carrot juice is safe or not. I think they use in Canada. I think they use like carrot juice instead of like red 40 for some of their chips or something like that. We don't know if this carrot juice is safe or not. That's crazy. Of course, you could also just look at every other country doing it and be like, oh, I guess it's probably pretty safe. But I get wanting to test it yourself, I guess, but it seems kind of silly if you know that they're using like natural vegetables and stuff for the coloring. Will synthetic food dyes be phased out? Kennedy also pushed manufacturers to eliminate dyes like Red 40 by the end of 2026. His stance has sparked debate, with some lawmakers and experts questioning the speed of regulatory changes and the safety of newer alternatives. Again, that's just crazy. The shift is not just supported by Kennedy. It also affects broader growing consumer demand for transparency, clean labels, and natural ingredients. Here we go. This is the most important thing. We all need to talk about this and be transparent about this. We need to demand that our food isn't poison anymore. If you, like me, have lived your whole life eating poison food and didn't know it until you were already an adult and you've already ate poison food for most of your life, if you're like me and know that, now we need to be saying, okay, no more poison food. I don't want to poison my kids. I want to eat as healthy as I can. I know I can't be perfect yet because 70% of all the food is ultra processed, but we can make sure we have some meals that are perfectly natural and not like that, right? You can do it sometimes at least, and that's a first step. And you can see how much, even in some ways, how much tastier that food can be, but also just how much more it makes you feel better than the ultra processed food does. So you can always start somewhere and then demand more, like demand that the food supply shifts out of that way. Like we can't have this ultra processed stuff anymore. If it's going to cost you profits, oh well, who cares? We don't care about your profit. You're not allowed to poison us. That shouldn't be a controversial statement. However, the transition is not without challenges. Reformulating products and natural dyes presents technical hurdles, including color stability, sourcing limitation, and higher costs. Okay. Color stability? Oh no. The color isn't stable. Sourcing limitations. Okay, yeah, it's harder to get natural stuff. And higher costs. Okay, yeah. The stuff might cost slightly more, but it's like, I don't know. This is just crazy to me, by the way. Like, you've already been jacking up the costs. Well, so you're telling me the dye didn't cost anything, but you're still jacking up the cost. So now we have to raise the cost of stuff because we're using natural stuff. It's just, I mean, it's all profit motivated, obviously. But that's the least of our worries is the cost. Like whatever, that's a whole nother issue. That's a whole nother video of corporatism taking over essential things like food, right? That's a whole nother thing. Natural alternatives often behave differently in various food matrices, requiring extensive R&D and supply chain adjustments. There are also concerns that to rush and replace synthetic dyes could lead to the approval of under-tested natural alternatives, raising new safety questions. Again, you gotta watch out for that carrot juice, guys. Here are the stories you must read to fully briefed in the phasing out of synthetic dye. Then there's more articles. FDA moves shaping U.S. food so far in 2025. General Mills and Kraft Heinz weighed in on dye removal. Natural color options for synthetic dyes. JM Smucker, Nestle, USA, and Conagra to eliminate synthetic dyes. CPGs need to know reformulating ahead of food dye bans. Natural dye demand surges after color ban. FDI says yes to 3 natural dyes. Natural dyes clash. Broader food safety issues sidelined in dyes focus. So this is the CNN article. Well, what about the ultra processed food? Well, yeah, let's get rid of that too. Long-term F&B challenges post dye ban and loopholes and crackdown on ultra processed food. So there we go. So maybe we'll start cracking down on that next. That's the last article that they suggest. So maybe that is coming soon, hopefully. So again, this is a big thing he's talked about. What actually I was doing is I was seeing all these negative articles, all these nasty people on Twitter. People are nasty, man. Like just nasty, vile human beings. I know like half of them are bots, but some of them are real humans and they are nasty people. People say the worst stuff. I'm not politically correct myself, but these people just say the nastiest things. And I was thinking, and then I saw like one little tweet or one little article about Maha or whatever. I'm like, you know what? This is something positive that's actually happening, and no one's talking about it because maybe positive stuff doesn't get as many clicks or gives people as riled up, doesn't get those nasty people retweeting you and stuff like that, and or agreeing with you or hating you. Either way, that's still engagement, I suppose. But this is actually good news. This is actually something that's actually happening. In a government, in a system where things very rarely happen, things are happening in this administration, which I appreciate, even if I do not agree with all of the administration. Things are actually happening to some degree. Again, some of those things I actually disagree with, but some of them I very much agree with. And at least it's not nothing, which, the previous 4 years was just nothing, unfortunately. They saw their thing was get back to the status quo, and I guess they did accomplish that by doing nothing. You could even argue they didn't even really make things much worse. They just kind of did nothing, which kind of made certain things worse by not doing anything. But that's where we are, and now we should take wins where we get them. We can maybe someday not have as much poisoned food. I don't know if you ever get that 70% ultra processed down to 0 in our food supply, but it's fine. Like if you just mixed it in every once in a while, it's probably fine, right? Or at least it's a lot better than what it currently is. And like I said, if you have the opportunity to eat, I don't even know. I want to put a number on it, but a certain amount of healthy meals a week or whatever, or month or whatever, I would definitely recommend doing it. And hopefully that'll make you feel better. It sure shouldn't make you feel worse. So hopefully it'll make you feel better. So yeah, I want to talk about something a little bit positive in this one because, it's a world full of negativity, and I'm sure a lot of my videos will be negative too, but not this one.